Hello, and welcome to this live stream of today's public meeting brought to you by Downtown Gun Rapids, Inc. We will begin shortly. Please keep your sound on, and we'll see you soon. Hello, and welcome to this live stream of today's public meeting brought to you by Downtown Gun Rapids, Inc. We will begin shortly. Please keep your sound on, and we'll see you soon. Hello, and welcome to this live stream of today's public meeting brought to you by Downtown Gun Rapids, Inc. We will begin shortly. Please keep your sound on, and we'll see you soon. Hello, and welcome to this live stream of today's public meeting brought to you by Downtown Gun Rapids, Inc. We will begin shortly. Please keep your sound on, and we'll see you soon. Hello, and welcome to this live stream of today's public meeting brought to you by Downtown Gun Rapids, Inc. We will begin shortly. Please keep your sound on, and we'll see you soon. Hello, and welcome to this live stream of today's public meeting brought to you by Downtown Gun Rapids, Inc. We will begin shortly. Please keep your sound on, and we'll see you soon.
Bring this Downtown Development Authority Board meeting to order Wednesday, July 13th, 2022 at 8:04. First is approving the meeting minutes from June 8th, 2022. Are there any questions or comments or corrections? All right, all in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed? All right, thank you. The West Side Futsal courts.
And Corey.
Hey, Corey. All right.
Yeah, are you hearing that echo?
Yeah, James.
Is that?
Good morning, everyone. Hear me?
Yes.
Hi, I'm Corey Mantana. I'm the project manager for DGRI, and I'm here to present to you the West Side Futsal Courts. So basically, the concept is it's a temporary 3-foot courts outside, which will be located on 250 Seward Avenue Northwest. The reason we picked that location is it's area parking lot 9, and it's under the DDA. And we've been working with Mobile GR to help find the best solution of using that parking lot. And so I think if we could show the next slide to give an image. So yeah, as you can see here, we've picked the section that's towards Bridge Street, because that, from the data that we gathered, it was less utilized compared to the north section towards Lake Michigan. So just to give a heads up of what futsal is a form of soccer. I'm from England, so that's my favorite sport. I play football, but futsal is a form of soccer. It's 5v5, which was popularized in South America. And so we feel like it's a great opportunity for Grand Rapids. There's such a movement here for soccer in general in terms of futsal, with all the different soccer teams, youth soccer teams here, as well as I'm collaborating with Soccer Rebellion, who've created this movement here in Grand Rapids, and they're trying to make it national with tournaments here in Grand Rapids, Chicago, Detroit, and now New York. So you're trying to tap into this emerging sport here in Grand Rapids and kind of set the standard for America across. So other points as to why I feel the futsal courts are a benefit. It's a global sport, and so I feel like we can showcase the diversity in Grand Rapids with the amount of people that play the sport and bring it here to downtown. Also, it's a great opportunity for kids to play sports and not feel pressurized with the rigorous structure of organized sports, but also in terms of a cost-effective way to play. These courts are designed to be open 24/7 to the public. And so it's another health incentive for people that live downtown or residents of downtown to not just sign up to YMCA or MVP. They get the opportunity to play this sport for free, meet new people. And then also, I feel like it's a great benefit of reimagining space downtown. This parking lot, like speaking with Mobile GR, this part of the parking lot doesn't have as much activity. Having this futsal court here will bring a lot more people using that parking lot, but also utilizing the Dash as well as the e-scooters. With that being said, I'd like to, I'll grab my laptop, so to give you the numbers. One second. Sorry, bear with me one moment. So the cost for the courts, the bids that we received would come to an overall cost of $200,096, $345 for asphalt removal, resurfacing, fencing, mobilization, and soil erosion control. We would like additional investment for goals, seating, trash cans, temporary restrooms, court striping, future mural and operational budget, and a construction contingency for additional amount of $40,700, bringing the overall request to $337,000. The project is included under financial year 23 budget under Goal 5, public ground improvements. DGRI will be paying the respective organizations that we were working with, using Wheeler Development as a construction administrator. So recommending an authorized funding of an amount not to exceed $337,000 for the futsal courts. So with that being said, is there any questions in regard to this project?
Any questions?
I think it's a great idea. I have a question though. It's referenced as a pop-up futsal court. It seems like it's more of a permanent. I notice in here there are comments about this sort of being a trial run.
Right.
Can you talk to the duration a little bit? What's sort of the expectation there?
So yes, the idea is it's temporary courts, but we would like to have it for 2 to 3 years, depending on how much development that is in line for this area. If we have the time, we would like to be 2 years, and if it's a successful program, we'd like to maybe expand it or go to a different location where it can be permanent. So that is the idea. It's a test pilot. It is temporary, but the idea is to eventually have a permanent court somewhere downtown.
So everything but the surface could be moved.
Yep, just the surface will be the only permanent fixture, but the fence and the goals, every supplies that we supply will be temporary.
Yeah, we've been thinking about it a lot like a skate park. So there was some grading required to level off the surface, but all the other elements can be moved. Three quick questions.
Yep.
Can this project be executed in time for, I think there's a tournament literally a month from today, so can it be done in that time frame? 2, I see other logos involved. Are they contributing, those corporate sponsors contributing to the project? And then 3, does this do anything to change our risk of liability for the use of this space? Does the DDA assume more liability, or is that?
So in regards to that first question, when we sent out the bids, the idea was that we want the courts to be ready for the summer. So I don't have a concrete timeline, but every bid that came in, they knew in mind that we wanted it to be ready for the summer. So if that's like August or like early September. So once I speak to them this week, I'll get confirmation in terms of their timeline. I think it's more just availability of them to come into the project. The second question, remind me again, sorry.
Are and maybe it's just was a concept, but I see some corporate logos on the mock-up. Are they contributing economically to the proposal?
Soccer at Bellingham has been working with me on this project. This was kind of the template design. They've been helping the promotion, the concept, the idea. They're not asking for money, but they will contribute to the smaller things. So like bringing footballs, other small things needed for like hosting a tournament. They're kind of the main advertisement for this court, along with DJI. So in terms of a financial incentive or like addition to this project, I don't think necessarily they're a big contribution, but.
I think we're still, what was included in the pack was conceptual. We're still working with them on, or going to be thinking about any sort of corporate branding or anything like that. So what was in the packet was just sort of a placeholder.
And then I think your third question was about liability. Right. So DJI is maintaining and operating the court itself. So we're kind of fully responsible for the condition of the court as well as maintenance of it. So.
Well, the DDA as the owner will likely get an additional liability waiver for insurance. Yeah. Perfect. That, yes.
Any other questions?
Any other comments or questions? If not, yes. Diane.
So has it just, maybe because I'm just not tied into the football, soccer world, how long has this been in development?
So I've been working on this idea since September when I joined with DJI. So trying to collaborate locally, use local organizations, businesses to help kind of produce this idea, but also keep it with the Grand Rapids core involved. So.
Any other? I would entertain a motion if someone would so
I'll
be
make the
inclined. All right. Any other comments? All in favor? Say aye. Any opposed? All right. Motion carries. Thank you, sir.
Thank you very much. Appreciate it.
Next is World of Winter recap. Oh my gosh, we're talking about winter.
I know you're excited.
It'll be here before you know it.
I know.
Yeah, so it's, oh, where was there? There's the plan. It's been a little while since World of Winter has happened. It ended early March. So I'm back before you to give you updates on how it went. And rather than show you a bunch of slides and recap of all the things that we did because there was like almost 200 different things that we've done. Our team put together a really awesome video through our communications team, so I thought that was best to show you, really showcase how it went.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8.
Alright, burn all the ships down. Gotta send the message I ain't leaving. Well, there's no retreating, this is my new home. How you plan to take the world over when you can't win over your own city? Well, they won't really miss me before I get up and go. I'm not suited for life, somewhere in between. I'm not basic yet.
How do you basic?
Want to make my point clear, so I perfect my articulation. It's so frustrating when my thoughts wind up on the floor. Yeah, I gotta get my head right. Do you have a panacea? It's a pretty senorita saying more, baby, more, baby, more. I'm on top of the world, far as I can see. Yeah, and God bless Michigan.
So in your packet, there's a wonderful data description that Marion put together for you guys to kind of give a breakdown of everything that happened during World of Winter for numbers. Overall, this past year, we received 67 proposals for the worldwide cast host art, and that's versus 50 from last year, so we increased that. Last year we also had 52 events. This year we had 77. Last year we were able to fund 16 local grants to placemakers and artists, and this year we did 39, so a drastic jump in numbers from that, and 36 people of that 39 applicants were people of color or of a minority. We had 10 different window installations, over 100 ice sculptures, teamed up with 80 businesses. That's 20 more than last year. 2-month activation, and even though our numbers were so large last year, even during a pandemic, we had a 57% increase in visitors than we did last year. And overall, this is kind of a breakdown, a showcase, like the difference between last year and this year. And again, those numbers are only run through cell phones, so it does not count all the people and all the children that don't have cell phones and or may have blocks on their phones as well for that data. So that's not even completely inclusive of everybody. So this is just a little breakdown from our communications team for our social media stats and our total users, the types of devices that they're using, and if you're interested in more of this data, I have a giant packet. I just didn't want to give you a 72 packet to look over in your agenda. So happy to send that over if you are interested on more of a breakdown on all our social and advertising that we did. But our communications team did a really robust advertising plan, and we teamed up with Pure Michigan and Experience GR and really vamped things up again this year. So if you have any questions on recap stuff, happy to answer those now. Otherwise, I'll go into my financial ask.
Any questions or comments? No, it's great.
Great. Huge kudos to like our entire team. I mean, really, most of everyone at DJI on staff works for this. It's not just my activation team or our comms team, but I mean, everyone's pretty much involved in some way or another, so it's a really team effort and can't do it without everyone here on staff. So World of Winter 2023 art installations. We put out a giant worldwide cast call again, which works out really, really well for us. We had, I think it was over 80 some proposals, again, drastic from even last year, from the 67 that we had. So we're getting a name for ourselves and we're getting out there worldwide. This is put out also locally too, so we did have some local companies that applied as well, and our committee kind of narrowed things down. Then we put it out to our Alliance members and also our River Activation members, steering committee members, to vote on which installations they would actually like us to bring in, and then it goes to timing and costs and all that kind of stuff. So there's 6 that we're proposing to bring in for this year. This isn't completely inclusive in the fact that our local grant cast call will go out in the next month. So we'll have a ton more local artists, that only local artists can apply for that grant. And those grants are up to $10,000 as opposed to $5,000 we've done in the last 2 years. So we're upping that as well. So this first one is called House of Cards from OG Group. And they're from Israel. This one is a really interactive installation, and it's really fun because all of these cards that you see here are all custom from places that the installation has traveled to all over the world, which means it's really exciting because we get to work with 10 local artists here to create custom cards that can be included in this deck installation that will then go on to travel all over the world next too. So I want to show you kind of how it works. You can see it in person a little bit. Is Angels of Freedom, and these are more of like an Instagrammable installation, and they range from sizes to make sure that adults, kids, people in wheelchairs, everyone can get photos in front of these Angels of Freedom, and they light up as well. Next one is Roaming Gnomes, and this is from our new friends over from Australia, from Amigo and Amigo. This is a brand new installation. It has never been anywhere yet, except for Australia, and they just released it last month. It's really exciting. We'll have 7 of these giant blow-up gnomes, much like they were kind of the bunnies last year. Basically, these are, I mean, the bunnies were such a huge hit because they're large, they're playful, and that's exactly what these are. So we're the first ones that would be able to host them. So this is just showing their concept, rendering a few of them, but there's technically 7 that we would be receiving. And the second one is called Affinity, and it's a nod to Alzheimer's disease. And this is very interactive as well, which I'm going to show you a little video. from Light Art Collection out of the Netherlands. These are talking heads, and they can be installed like next to each other, further apart. There's different ways for them to be played, and this is a little video to showcase how they work as well. Next one from Light Art Collection is a nod to Van Gogh's Starry Night, which is a big backdrop from Van Gogh's Starry Night. So with that, happy to answer any questions, but there is a proposal and recommendation in front of you for $250,000, not to exceed that, and that would come out of the public space activation through the budgeted winter art installations. And our team is going to continue to bring in a lot more art from local artists that will be through the cast call and the grant. And then we also curate specifically. So our team, like if there's something that we really know we want to see, we hire artists to help us create them. And we're looking at what installations are available for purchase. I know you like to keep art, and we're gonna make sure that that happens. So we're working for that as well. Some we might not have to come to the DDA board for financial approval. Others you might see me back asking for funds. So happy to answer any questions about these installations that you may have. The next step, if you do give me your approval today, would be working with our Parks Department to find the best locations for these installations. And then the Arts Advisory Council for approval. Yeah.
I was thinking about, is there an opportunity to partner with other organizations with some of this, like the Alzheimer's? Is there a local organization that can partner with that? And then
Most definitely.
I thought about it because what jumped out to me is the talking heads and like mental wellness. I don't know what those organizations are in the city, but I could just see, that type of partnership making it more of an enriching experience. So just more of a comment.
I love that idea, and absolutely. We haven't gone into programming on any of these. We've got some immediate ideas, but programming's next based on approval, but those are great suggestions. Yeah.
Curiosity, you have we have 2 installations per group, right? And that seems like a really good way to do it, especially when they're coming from Israel, Australia. Is that intentional that we're saying, hey, if you can come with a couple, we get more bang for a buck, right?
I learned a lot in the last 2 years, honestly. I ran my team ragged, I think, by having so many different installations from different people, not to mention Jessica and all the contracts that we had to do. So what I learned, it's better, obviously, also discounted for bang for your buck, but also having only a couple different groups to be able to come in because their requirements are similar rather than trying to juggle all of them. So that's something that we've definitely learned as a team in the last couple of years, and that's where we're at this year.
Any other questions or comments?
Chair, I just
Yes.
have a question. So in looking at the data, the year-over-year comparison, so we still are not back up to where we were pre-pandemic, even though it's interesting to me because I feel like World of Winter the last couple of years has drawn more folks downtown for World of Winter.
Yeah.
Is the assumption that it's because people aren't back to work?
That's a really good question, and to be quite frank, I don't know how to answer that. I can say that we know over the 2-month-long period, there was a drop in the middle, people came out right away, and then it was a steady kind of decline. And as like these installations, I'm bringing a bulk of them at the beginning, and 2 large ones I'm bringing only from February. So like we'll get a big kick, and then it may taper off just a little bit, but then we'll get another big kick again to hopefully continue that effort. And we're still looking for adding the projection show back, so I may be back in front of you. We're looking at the logistics of that. We can't be at DeVos Place this year because they're so busy, but we're looking at other places. So I honestly don't know how to answer that. Maybe our data team can possibly. I'm not positive.
It would just be interesting. That is my assumption. It'd be
Yeah.
interesting to overlay this with how many folks are back to work in offices downtown.
I think too, Convention Center was definitely busy last year. Van Andel was still like kind of kicking things off. In my opinion, like coming down and being downtown like a lot, I have never seen so many people downtown in the winter, so that does surprise me a little bit. But yeah, I'm not positive. Maybe on the daily, but on the weekends, it's definitely busy.
That was my anecdotal experience, but okay.
Yeah, you're
I
definitely
also
not wrong.
think the tourism isn't
Back to where it was.
back to where it was, so all those people are missing as well.
Yeah.
So they're finally coming back, so.
They might have been in the social zones longer.
That could be too. That could be
I
too.
feel like that's how you make it tolerable. You stop at a social zone, take a drink, go see some art,
Lock your phone.
Don't lock your phone. We need that data.
Well, good. Any other comments? It is great. I'd love to see any of those as permanent installations.
I wish. I
The
don't know if
talking
they'll.
heads, you could put it from bridge to bridge. you know.
That was one of the ideas.
Oh.
Let's see if the Parks Department will
I know,
let
right?
me do it.
Call me if you have problems.
Yeah.
Will do.
Anything else? I would entertain a motion to approve.
Support.
All right. Any other comments or questions? If not, all in favor, say aye. Aye. Any opposed? All right. Thank you very much. Motion carries.
Thank you.
Next, we have the city water quality monitoring update.
Yeah, we're gonna invite up Mike Stahl from the city engineering department. You may recall last year, around this time, we approved kind of a package of water infrastructure improvements and investments, part of which was for some water quality monitoring. And happy to see that that's up and running, so Mike's gonna give us an overview of what's going on there.
Yeah, good morning. Thank you so much for having me here. I'm excited to be here. So, yeah, I want to give you an update on our river water quality monitoring project. So I just start with a little bit of background because, it has been a year. So about 5 years ago, we were really kicking off this River for All engagement process with the public. And one of the things that we heard through that process was we love the ideas for the river. We love the river edge improvements. But am I safe to be in the river because of the river water quality? And having my background in the environmental services department, I knew that we've been testing river water quality for 40 years. And largely what that data says is that the river water quality is fine to be using. But there are times where, after large rain events, we do see that influx of E. coli come in, and it does go above what the state has listed as a recreational non-contact limit, meaning there's too much E. coli, do not touch this. So the natural response is, well, you should tell me when that is, right? And that's a very valid response, and so our team took a look at that. What can we do about that? Well, I'll tell you, the technology wasn't there. We talked with a lot of people. Honestly, if you want a good number for E. coli, it takes about 24 hours to get that good test result. Well, in 24 hours, that river water is long gone, right? So we needed something fast. And so Grand Rapids is part of the EPA's network called the Urban Waters Federal Partnership, which really gives us that better access to federal agencies. And so we reached out to that network and we said, okay, what are you doing in this space? Would you have a federal agency working on that? And they connected us to the United States Geological Survey. If you're familiar with them, they're the leading agency in water and ground monitoring. And USGS, their Upper Midwest Water Science Center out of Madison, Wisconsin, had just completed a pilot study on this kind of technology that I'm going to talk about and smaller streams. And they were just getting ready they were excited about the results they were seeing, and they were wanting to scale that up and see, what would be on the next scale of river, right? The next size of river up, what their test results would be. So it was really a good match at a good time for us to come together. So with thanks to your support, some more support from the Community Foundation, we entered into a joint funding agreement with USGS to install this river water quality monitoring station on 6th Street Bridge and to do some modeling. So what USGS is doing through this, so we have an installation that has basically a sensor that's in the water. It takes 6 different parameters, and what they'll do, it takes it every 15 minutes, and we're posting it right to the web. In meantime, USGS is sending their lab staff out there. They're going to be taking samples across the bridge at multiple different bridges, creating a large array of data points. And then from that, they're going to create a model that says, based on what we're seeing at this one installation point that reads every 15 minutes, they will predict what the E. coli levels are in the river every 15 minutes, which is obviously a huge improvement from 24 hours. So that's really exciting. That installation just got installed at the start of May, and so far the equipment's running great. USGS is telling me that there's not a lot of results, right? It's only 2 months worth, and we're going to be doing this for 3 years from May through October this year, 23 and 24. So we don't have a lot of data results yet, but the data results are what we thought they were really at this point in time. So in the meantime, we're obviously trying to approach all of this from a very transparent, equitable standpoint. And my colleague Sierra Adkins, the river equity analyst, couldn't be here this morning, but we've been really working hard on how we approach this. And so the first thing that we have done is we have added signage to this water quality station. Instead of making it a bland stainless steel box on 6th Street Bridge, we've added signage to it. And so if you're walking by, you can scan that QR code. And in fact, if you're interested, you could probably scan it right now and it brings it right up. So if you're staring at your phone, I won't care if you want to scan that right now. So it's not a cool video like Kim has, I'm sorry, but it has a nice graph with it. So what that will bring up is the city has added a new website for river water quality, and it will show you the 3 different sites. So we have 3 different sites with USGS at North Park, which is at the upper city limit, 6th Street Bridge, which is this one, and the long-standing one that's been for 50 years, which we built our flood walls around at Fulton Street. So it will give you all of the real-time data from that, and so basically it's pulling in USGS's data, right? And just pulling it right into our website. But USGS, I love them, they're great, but they're scientists and they put very technical definitions. And so the bottom right graph is what they have. And honestly, what most of us here in this room, we probably don't understand what all of that says. So what we did, Sierra and I and others, is we wrote definitions of what this would mean to the general public. What is turbidity? What does that mean? And we have other, obviously there's multiple different parameters. What is the temperature? What does dissolved oxygen levels mean in the river? So that is what we're working on right now. We're going to continue to push that data out. So as people see it now, we want them to feel comfortable with seeing that data. We want to take that model, once USGS gets it done in 3 years, and we want to be building electronic beacons at each of the major river access points so that we can change that level. As this system takes in the data, we can change it from green, yellow, red, and give people actionable data that they can make decisions on for their use in the river. So with that, I want to just thank you again for your support of this. I'm really excited to be advancing science with USGS and doing it in a very transparent, equitable way. And with that, I will take any questions you may have.
Any questions?
I don't have a question. I just have a comment. I want to thank Mike for all of his work. I'm so glad to see this move forward and made public. I don't know about all of you, but I talk to folks still today who believe that the Grand River is super polluted and you can't eat the fish that you catch out of it. And it's been this long-held belief, I think, especially 40 years ago. And people don't appreciate the work that we did with sewer separation and the impact that had on water quality in the Grand River. Obviously, we still have incidents of high rain events where we get a lot of runoff from upstream down. But working on the river restoration project for the last decade, we've done all these environmental studies, and a lot of the perceptions about the quality of our river and even the sedentary and the bedrock is just not accurate. And it's a hard belief to challenge when people have thought that about our Grand River for decades. So I'm glad that we have this and that we're continuing to try to make it as user-friendly and easy to understand as possible. So thank you for working on that. Mike does that all the time on river restoration issues, and I just really appreciate all this work, but I'm really happy to see this come forward. So thank you.
Word of the day, turbidity.
I know, it's a good word, isn't it?
I'd like to swing it on my staff.
Any other comments?
Just a quick question.
Yes.
So I'm on the website, and it's incredible how much data is on here. It's very hard to understand even in English. There's a lot of technical terms in here, so I appreciate the sort of dumbing it down for us. Is there any thought to translating this to other languages? You know, just Spanish comes to mind. I mean, I can't imagine how difficult that would be, but any thought to that?
Yeah, we have talked about translating it into Spanish, and it gets to be really hard when you are talking technical terms to translate that into Spanish. We are going to continue these efforts, and we're hopefully continue to get that word out about the data, and hopefully that will be part of that effort, because I agree with you. I think everybody needs to know what this data is saying.
Just a question, is there a plan to continue this after the rapids are restored, or what's the...
So that is the goal, right? So right now our agreement with USGS is really only through 2024, the end of that calendar year. Once that is up, the monitoring goes away, but we're going to need that monitoring to keep up that system. So as we are working on the park edges, we need to be finding a permanent installation for this. This being on the 6th Street Bridge right now was the best spot for it to be given all of our current constraints. But as we work on the river edges, we really need to be thinking about what we do permanently for this kind of installation. And yes, we will need to extend that and keep doing that with USGS.
And I anticipate with the river restoration that we'll be capturing a lot of data, even around the impact on fish and wildlife, which we've talked a lot about, like the impact of the oxygenation and some of what we are expecting will happen with the removal of the dams. We'll wanna collect data to identify if our assumptions are accurate.
Yeah.
Is that right, Mike?
Absolutely, especially we have North Park Street, which is the upper city limit, as basically the water that's received to us. And now we have 6th Street Bridge, so we have 2 data points, and we'll really start seeing what those impacts are. There's also one that is in Eastmanville that we can see the water quality on. So between those data sets, we're really going to get a good picture of that water quality as it kind of moves through the city.
Okay. All right. Any other questions? Yes.
First, I'll say that. At first, I thought you were saying USPS.
Oh. Sorry, I'll be more clear next time.
But how, I guess I'm wondering, like, how different is our river? This is a huge question. Like, how different is the river from other rivers, right? So, like, I feel like people have perceptions of, you know, I'm gonna tube down the Muskegon River.
Yes.
But I'm not gonna get in a canoe in the Grand River. Like, I don't know, how different is our river from a couple others? I don't know.
So you're asking a large question, right? So, and that is, people are, when we talked about, you know, why they don't use the river or why they wouldn't use the river, because they are comparing it to the beautiful, you know, rivers that they see upstream of us or upstate of us. And they're just different orders of rivers. If you think about the Grand, it's taking in a much larger area. It's a larger river in width and flow, but you have the Thornapple coming into it. You have the Rogue coming into it. All these different rivers. It's actually, there's orders of streams, and this is much larger than, like, the Muskegon would be close, but all those other ones, you know, the Pine and other ones, Manistee up north, those are much smaller rivers, so they do not have the same kind of inputs that they have. So it's really, honestly, you're almost comparing, like, the Mississippi to the Grand. Would almost be a better comparison because of the types of inputs that they are. So that's my simple version of that. Does that help?
Yeah, I understand.
Okay.
Anything else? All right.
Thank
you. Appreciate it. All right, next, Tim, you're up. The DDA and TIF plan amendment.
Yep. Yeah, thanks, Mr. Chair. This is just an info item. We just wanted to kind of flag some work that we're doing for you all so that when it does come forward in a month or two, you're kind of prepared and know what's going on. Maybe this is a quick starting point, a reminder of what our TIF and development plans are. So these are the statutorily required documents that kind of guide our work, where we collect revenues from, the timeline, the procedures, all those sorts of things. They're separate documents, but we actually utilize them as one. We last updated those two back in 2016, largely to sort of bring in the goals and priorities of GR Forward into those documents. We also added in new language around purpose of the plan, again, borrowing from GR Forward, but thinking about affordable housing, thinking about our goals around minority and women business ownership. Obviously, the Grand River and Edges wanted to make sure that those things were memorialized in the document. Importantly, we also updated the language around special millage capture, as well as the gain sharing, which, as you all know, is well in action now, and then we also updated the duration of the plan. We also, at that time, we did do a boundary expansion that some of you may recall. This is what the initial map, or this is what the map in 2016 looked like. As a reference point, there's Wealthy down there, downtown Market. This is the 6th Street bridge right up here. And coming out of that plan, we added in these areas, L, M, N, O, P. So we're getting very far into the alphabet at this point. But those were largely to, again, to bring in these areas that we felt like had a lot of doing work there would help to promote the goals of GR Forward. And so where we are now for this year is thinking about some of the big picture projects that are moving along, wanting to make sure that our tools are in place to support those things and move them forward, specifically thinking about 201 Market and Market Avenue. Highlighted down here is the area that's not filled in here. We do not capture taxes there, mostly because it's government-owned property, but we don't have a tax capture district down there. We can do work and we can spend money in there because it's within the boundary, but because it's not within a tax capture district, we do not and would not capture revenue without a change. So as we think about the 201 Market redevelopment, thinking about wanting to make sure that all the tools are in place to support projects that are happening down there, we're looking at the possibility of expanding that district. In addition, as the river work has continued, and we're really starting to look now at trail connections and how we can make sure that people can get to the river and the corridor and the public spaces that we're going to be building over the next 5 to 10 years. Want to make sure that the trail inputs are built out. So we may look at potentially expanding out to draw in some of those areas. Importantly, we can now refine our bond expenditures and remove the Van Andel Arena from that, but we can also think about in the future if there's any bonding that we may need to do that could be included at this point. And then lastly, we did identify some cleanup required based on the last expansion. So the easiest way to summarize this is that when in 2016, when this area was added, there were some parcels that were intentionally excluded back in 2008, and they were brought in sort of unintentionally, and so we just need to do a little cleanup to make sure that this reflects the noticing that has been done previously and what was intended back in 2008. So there'd be some cleanup that is done as well. So, and that's sort of reflected here. So these areas initially were left out when we redrew in 16. They were brought in, but they weren't supposed to be. So we'll do that cleanup. I know the question that always comes up around boundary expansions. I mentioned the potential for trail connections. We are very limited in where we can go because of some of the other corridor improvement authorities and some of the other tax capture districts that are set up. So we don't have a lot of room to expand out or even north at this point. So I don't expect that there'll be much happening there, but again, there may be some key trail connection points that we'll look at. Specifically thinking about this Wealthy Street area. The Leonard to Ann stretch also does not currently have a corridor improvement authority in place, so we may look in that area as well. But these are all discussions that we're still working through. So that's a quick high-level overview of some of the things that we're analyzing. Obviously, any questions or input you have, we'd welcome at this point, but this will come back to you at a later date for consideration and further discussion.
So the process, to remind everybody, we would recommend it to the city commission?
If and when we're ready to go. This is a highly aspirational timeline. If it came back to you next month, as an example, we'd have to take it to city commission to set a public hearing. We'd have to do the proper noticing. You can't do it. You have to do it between 40 and 20 days. So we'd have to get the notices out, put them in the paper. Then we have to meet with the taxing jurisdictions, hold a public hearing, then there'd be a vote, and then we'd have to publish it in the paper. So there's a little bit of a tail on it. I think our goal would be to get it done by the end of the year. This shows what it would look like to get it done in October, which again would be a pretty quick turnaround.
Mayor, do you have a comment?
2 questions. Is there an urgency to this? Is there a date that we have to have it done?
Nope. No, there's no requirement in terms of getting it done. I think we are just working alongside partners and looking at some of the projects that might be happening, particularly with the amphitheater and 201, wanting to make sure that the tool's in place.
Just being proactive.
Yeah, no, I appreciate that. And then I couldn't quite tell from the map, the post office site is not included?
It's currently not, no.
Okay. And does that fall in?
So that's post offices, right?
Does that fall in the smart zone? It
I don't
doesn't?
believe it is.
Okay.
I
know
think-
there's overlap.
Yeah, I think it was just left out because it's federal property.
Federal property, okay. And then my last question, I know there's conversations about, again, likely in the future, at least exploring a potential Parks Authority. Would that have any impact on some of those locations further along the river north?
Potentially, yeah.
Okay.
I think a lot of that is still getting worked through. But yeah, it would. I mean, downtown, I think we're fairly limited in where we can go. The rec authority, as it's being discussed, could cover a much larger area outside of the city limits even.
Okay, thanks.
Yes.
First, just a political suggestion, and that's that recalling the heavy lift that it was to bring the county along on a number of these things, to have that conversation with both political and administrative leadership sooner rather than later. So yep. I think that would be really important. Second thing is just a question about the Belknap Hill and where that line is. Is it at the bottom of the hill right now? Is it at the top? And what's the thinking about that?
Great question. So that line is right at the top. So this would be Lookout Park right here. Is that right? Yeah. So it's at the top of the hill. So it does include the switchback park area.
Okay.
Yeah.
And, okay. I was having discussions with folks there recently, and question was, you know, the stairs, for example, when it gets to the top, there's a little bit of maybe private property up there that it might, so just making sure, that can get complicated, right? If the last 5 feet are not in
Yeah.
the DDA
Yep.
district?
Yeah.
Just want to make sure that's all covered.
Yeah, and we can look specifically at property lines and all those sorts of things. Yep.
And you would think if it was private, it'd be an easement or something.
I guess it comes out as a street, the street, right?
Yeah, that's what I thought.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah, but we could look into that with the
But
city.
whether it comes up far
Yeah.
enough to include that. yeah. Thanks.
Yeah, good question.
Anybody else have a question or a comment? All right. Thank you. Next is your executive director report.
Yes, and there's a lot going on, but I'll kind of buzz through this. First, wanted to point out some of the changes in our vitals report. Just added in some editorial notes, changed some of the formatting. We're continuing to evolve that. So as you're looking through it, if you have suggestions or edits, please do let us know. Marion and Bill on our team are doing a lot of work on that, so kudos to them. On the project sort of activity side, we are getting our Calder steering committee, our Calder Plaza steering committee back together, just to sort of reinitiate that work. We did include some money in our FY23 budget to do some Calder work, and so we're getting our committee back together. Also growing the table, want to include some residents, and if there's other interested parties, we're welcome to add them in. So if you know of anyone or if any of you are interested in participating, please let us know. On the engagement side, we also have a couple of listening sessions going on this week. One with our downtown neighbors on some quality of life listening sessions that will be in this space on Thursday at 5. And then for the river equity work, we have a listening session at Link Up at 5 p.m. on Thursday as well. So those two things are happening. And then wanted to highlight also, I'm sure everyone saw, but the amphitheater did receive a $30 million award from the state. So that's another addition to the financing stack for that to help move it forward. On the business side, we saw 3 new announcements regarding headquarters in downtown in the past month. So Perigo opened back on June 29th over at Michigan and Monroe. TwistThink, which is a digital consulting firm, is also going to be going in over at the Innovation Park at Michigan Monroe. And then Holo Footwear, which is a company out of Portland, is coming to 50 Lewis. Overall, they're bringing 61 jobs. Perigo has 150, and the TwistThink has 37. So a little over 200 new jobs coming into downtown, which is great to see. And then lastly, just wanted to highlight some of the events that are going on if you're looking for anything to do. Tomorrow we have Relax at Rosa. On Friday we have our summer beatbox series kicking off at Lion Square. That'll be Friday night. There will be a bar out front, thanks to our friends at the Amway Hotel. And then Water Festival is July 30th. And then we are going to have a new West Side Dog Park opening over on the DDA-owned lot, also on the west side. That'll be in August. So that's just a quick snapshot of things that we're involved with. There's a ton going on, but I'll stop there and see if anyone has any questions.
Any update on the Greenway project?
The funding piece. Yeah. So we have the board, the nonprofit board is set up, so Grand River Inc. We're still working closely with the state to understand some of the parameters around that financing, how it's going to be spent. But a lot of planning, engagement work is still happening. But yeah, it's moving along. We are working hard to make sure that we get that money spent by the time required.
Very important.
Yeah. Yeah, yes. We have a new, are there any other questions? I was going to introduce our new staff member. Good. So we did want to welcome Nancy to our teams. Nancy just started on Monday, and so we are excited to have her here and really helping on the digital communication side and on the communications team. So welcome, Nancy.
Great. Any other comments or questions for Tim? All right. Next is public comment. If there's anyone in the public that would like to step forward, now is your opportunity. All right, seeing none. Next, I believe we have a motion.
Yes, Chair, I'd like to make a motion. I move that we enter into a closed session as permitted under the Open Meetings Act for the purpose of considering the purchase of a lease or purchase or lease of real property.
Okay,
So we need to stop and move to the room and call you.
okay, so
Do we have support and then,
Do
do we
we-
have the same rules,
we-
Jessica, support and then voice
we
vote?
need a roll call, right?
Support.
All right,
So we'll do the roll call. Name you. You're up.
Member Avila? Yes. Mayor Bliss?
Yes.
Member Dunn?
Yes.
Member Eddy?
Yes.
Member McNeely?
Yes.
Member Shaki?
Yes.
Member Seeger?
Yes.
Member Talon?
Yes.
And Chair Brickwitt?
yes. All right,
We'll break for a moment.
yes.
Are we meeting in here or moving?
Yeah, we're gonna stay in here.
Okay, so if we would ask the public to leave. We don't, not to be rude, but.
And then Tim, we're,
Yep, these are cutting. James, you got
okay.